here, but I first want to introduce our lead health coaches who will give her a warm welcome and introduction. Take it away.
All right. So how many of you guys got enough sleep last night? Anybody? Some people. And who here is tired? Same. So we're here from the Austin Health Promotion and the Health Coach Institute. Our names are Piper, Reagan, Beth, and we are the lead health coaches, like Michaela said. We are thrilled to have our guest speaker here today, Dr. Roxanne Prichard, who will lead us through a session about sleep. This program supports our Let's Talk Health campaign and Sleep Month. But first, we would like to give you some information about the programs and services our office offers that we hope you will take advantage of.
Our office offers programs and services around alcohol and drug support and education, nutrition education and counseling, and general health education, which is delivered through the Health Coach Institute iHealth programs. We have group programs and individual health conversations. We hope you can all come to other programs that we offer, request a program or come in for an iHip, and meet with a health coach to discuss general health, sleep time, or stress management. We're located in Gaston 025, and we have many things on our website as well. As we mentioned, we're in the middle of our Let's Talk Health campaign and just began the Let's Talk Resilience Month. So please check your email and listen, talk, and challenge yourself to reflect, and feel free to meet with any of the staff in our office if there's anything else you'd like to discuss.
And this is our speaker, Roxanne Prichard. She is a professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of St. Thomas. An award-winning researcher, speaker, and author, Dr. Prichard has spent the last 10 years studying how college students sleep. She's designed popular courses on sleep and led workshops for college health professionals on sleep, has published multiple peer-reviewed articles on sleep, and has presented numerous papers at national and international professional meetings. Her TEDx talk is called Addressing Our Children's Sleep Debt, and it was featured in the lecture series Transforming Education. Her research has been summarized in a variety of national media outlets, including Time, U.S. World News Report, or U.S. News and World Report, PBS NewsHour, Huffington Post, ABC News, and USA Today, among others. So now we have Sleepless in DC. It has a little bit of a ring to it, and we hope that you guys enjoy the talk today. So please join us in welcoming Roxanne.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here, and wow. Okay, this room is like designed to make you go to sleep. Okay, so stay with me, we'll try to keep awake. First question I have for you, does anybody speak Setswana? Okay, all right. If so, I was going to ask you to pronounce this next sentence, which is the formal way you would greet somebody in the language Setswana, which is spoken in Botswana and a couple other places. Any guesses? I love this. I'm going to ask you this. It's, how did you wake? Can you imagine how society would be different instead of, hey, how are you, or sup, or hello? They'd be like, how did you wake? All right, so I know it'll take a little bit, but just ask your neighbor, how'd you wake today? Feeling refreshed. You woke up without the alarm clock and you're like, I got enough sleep. Raise your hands high, nothing to be ashamed of. All right, that's actually pretty good. That's more students than I've ever seen in an audience, even though it's only like 6. That's good for us. All right. How many of you woke up with an alarm clock and your response is, no, this can't be the way life should go? Yeah, okay, so that's what we want to work on. I heard, who woke up with the Sleep Cycle app? 2 people? Okay, 3? Are you converted?
Yes.
And you? Sleep Cycle? 100%? Okay, we'll talk about the Sleep Cycle. That's an app that wakes you up when you are in REM sleep, which is when your brain, is going fast enough so that you can actually feel comfortable waking up. It's pretty awesome. We'll talk about that. All right, who's this guy? Elvis. Okay, I wasn't sure if he still has like face recognition. I'm a little obsessed with Elvis because he died the week I was born. And his story is similar to one that's actually a pretty sad story. It's the way Prince died. So I'm from Minneapolis, everybody loves Prince there. Do you care about Prince? Do you know who Prince is?
We love Prince.
Okay, all right. How Michael Jackson died, how Tom Petty died, how so many people died, and we'll get to that. But I'm going to tell you about sleep through the story of Elvis. So remember him. We'll get back to him in a minute. All right, to start, what is sleep? What is sleep? It's this beautiful brain state. And it's interesting because it's something that's technically, fundamentally incompatible with consciousness. It's something we have to do a third of our lives where we disappear from ourselves. It's just bizarre to think like, here's a species, all right, you're doing good, except for a third of the species' life, you'll have to not respond to the outside world. And for 2 hours every day, you'll have to be paralyzed and hallucinating, which is basically what REM sleep is. We're in a paralyzed body having self-administered thoughts of sensations that aren't there, right? That's hallucinations. So what is it? Why do we spend so much time doing it? It must be awfully important for life if all animals do it, and all complex animals with complicated nervous systems, including mammals, birds, and recently discovered octopus. Is anybody really into octopi? Okay, those are pretty smart, right? Octopi are one of the smartest creatures around. They have REM sleep too. So what is it all about? We've got basically a couple different states I want to talk about, and they do different things. REM sleep is more in the last half of the night. Non-REM or deep sleep is in the first half of the night. And if you use a sleep tracking app like Sleep Cycle, it'll tell you a little bit more about whether you're getting more non-REM or REM or deep slow wave sleep, and it'll just help you learn about your own sleep. This first half of the night is when we are falling asleep. And falling asleep actually is something that's a little dangerous. Have any of you been in a conversation and, let's see, hopefully there's no commercial here. You've been in a conversation and you fell asleep, but you refuse to admit that you're asleep? Does that happen to you? Or somebody else has fallen asleep while they're talking to you and they're not going to admit they're falling asleep, but they're asleep? We have to be asleep 10 minutes before we recognize that we're asleep. Now, why is that dangerous? Any ideas? Yeah?
You're driving a car?
Exactly, and that's what I'm going to show you. Your age group actually has higher fall asleep at the wheel car crashes than any other age group. I'm wondering how I escape out of this. Scroll where? It's weird. Well, there goes that. I've seen that happen before. Trying to exit. Okay. I'll just use it. Okay. So what I want to show you is somebody who is driving, and he's auditioning for a job as a driver, and so they put like a driver cam in his car. I love that he's auditioning. He knows he's being recorded, and yet he doesn't even wear a seatbelt. Watch his eyes. So he lived, by the way. Yeah. All right. So the reason I want to show you that is because it's actually the way, sadly, many people end up, dying every year is through falling asleep at the wheel crashes. And your age group has the highest percentage of fall asleep at the wheel crashes to get to anybody over 75. So it's pretty large percentage. And part of that is linked to just the enormous levels of sleepiness young adults carry. And what I've experienced is that most of you haven't really experienced consistent good sleep since you've been like 12, I'm guessing. When did you wake up for high school? 6, 7? When did your high school start?
7:30.
7:30, some 8. So the CDC, American Academy of Pediatricians, American Academy of School Counselors, basically every medical group says it's wrong to have high school start before 8:30 because teenagers' brains just aren't ready to wake up yet. So most of you, I would say, are so accustomed to being exhausted all the time, you don't know any other way to live. Would you say that's fair to say? How do you feel differently on break? How much do you sleep then? Okay, we'll talk about how to sleep. Slow wave sleep here. Alright, so the main point of this is when you're falling asleep, you don't even know that you're falling asleep. By show of hands, how many of you have had your chin drop in a class? Whoa. Okay, so I asked a group of employees earlier today, when's the last time you fell asleep at work? And for you guys, school is basically work, right? It's not something we do a lot. And yet it's very common for college students to fall asleep repeatedly during the semester and in classes. What's up with that? And part of that is just an enormous level of accumulated sleep debt and exhaustion. And what I'm trying to do is travel around the country, speaking at different colleges, speaking with different organizations to say you guys need more sleep. So that's my job today, is basically to convince you that you need more sleep, convince you that it's possible to happen, and can give you reasons that you want to do it. In some ways, my job is easy because if you really ask what your body wants to do, it'll tell you. It'll tell you loud and clear that it wants and needs more sleep. Now we're just working on giving you permission to do it. All right, so slow wave sleep. Slow wave sleep is when your brain slows down from 18 cycles per second to 1. And that's when you're so out of it, if your alarm clock hit, you would have no idea what to do. You're like, and this feels awful to wake up from. REM sleep is when your brain is actively processing emotional information and actively processing memory. So you can study during the day, but to make the neural changes you need to encode that learning into long-term storage, into long-term memory, you need this REM sleep. It's also really important for emotional processing and insightful learning. So what happens, all right, what's a major threat to non-REM slow wave sleep? Any ideas? Yeah.
Your phone.
Your phone, right? So if you have too much light exposure, blue light exposure at night, you are not going to get as much melatonin and you won't be able to get into deep sleep. Especially, how many of your phones are on during the night making noises for updates at you? I hear you. Okay. Yeah, do you guys use the I am away or do not disturb feature? Go ahead and do that. It's a pretty good one to use. What's another thing that can disrupt the slow wave sleep? Where your sleep feels restless, it doesn't feel deep. Yeah?
Temperature?
Temperature, if it's too hot, it's hard to sleep. Caffeine, is that what you're gonna say? Yeah, caffeine and stimulants. So the half-life of caffeine is somewhere around 12 hours longer if you're on birth control. So it stays in your system a really long time. So if you drink, is that caffeinated?
Yeah.
Yeah, which time do you usually go to bed?
11, 12.
Okay, you're fine. If you stop now.
Yeah, right.
This is the last one. But what we see usually is that students will try to do caffeine when they're getting tired as they're studying, right? What is the stimulant of choice around here? Doesn't have to be you, it could be your neighbors. Coffee? So not 5 Hour Energy, not Red Bull, not Adderall. No? Okay. So coffee and other stimulants make it harder to get this deep slow wave sleep. What is a major threat to REM sleep? Yeah.
Is alcohol?
Absolutely, you got it, ding, 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 right? So alcohol and any sedative is going to suppress your ability to achieve REM sleep, which is problematic because it can mess up your sleep for 2 or 3 days after drinking. So if you drink on 2 nights in a row and have alcohol in your system, your brain's going to suppress REM, and then you get something called REM rebound, where it comes back with a vengeance when it's not supposed to, and that's associated with freaky dreams and restless sleep and not having good slow wave sleep. Question in the back.
Yeah, does do benzos and stuff like that?
Yep,
also
anything that
affect-
hits the GABA receptors, benzos, the anti-anxiety drugs, the sleeping pills even ironically screw up your sleep. So the Ambiens, Lunestas, anything that hits GABA receptor, and for those that don't know what GABA receptor is, that's fine, you don't have to know. That's going to suppress your REM sleep, you get rebound. Is Scary Sunday something that people talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that kind of is a physiological explanation for that. All right, so just want to show the difference between slow wave sleep, when your brain is really slowing down, doing body and brain repair, and REM sleep. So it's two very different brain states, and they're really important for different types of survival, basically. So what controls when we sleep? Number one is your sleep need, just how tired you are. So if you're nodding off in class or driving, you are so exhausted, your brain's saying you're doing such a bad job of keeping your body alive, you lose control of your consciousness. That's what falling asleep when you don't mean to is. You're so low on a vital nutrient for life, you don't get to be in control of your body anymore, right? So that's what falling asleep, sleep need is. Now, one worry about that is if you take a big long nap in the afternoon, that's going to make it harder to fall asleep later in the evening because you're kind of confusing your sleep need. Second thing is your circadian rhythm. So who has class at 8 or 8:30? Not very many of you? Okay. Who is a first year student? Okay. Just curious. That's surprising. Usually more people have classes that start at 8 or 8:30. How come you guys don't have 8 or 8:30 classes? There are not that many? Awesome. Good for BC. All right, so circadian rhythm is your body's telling you whether you're a morning person or night person. This is something that's genetic and you can't change it. The best I can tell you for that is live your body. If your body is a morning person, do your hard morning work. I'm a morning person. I like to study in the morning, write in the morning, get my stuff done in the morning. I can hang out at night, but I can't do hard work. Night people have it harder because your good optimal time for working is when everybody else wants to goof off. So it's actually kind of true that night people have higher rates of procrastination and higher rates of alcohol and drug use, kind of just because that's what's going on during the day, during the evening hours. So if you're a night person, you're living in a morning person schedule, and you've got a rhythm that's like biologically making it harder for you to fall asleep at night. But one of the things I'll show you later is the importance of having a consistent rhythm, having like the same schedule, morning, day after day, weekend, weeknight. So ideally, we want to be up for 16 hours or so. That's our sleep need. At the same time, our circadian rhythm is telling us it's time to go to bed. The way I've seen, and a lot of what I do, is work to synchronize these two rhythms in students. Sometimes that means taking away a big nap. Sometimes that means trying to be consistent about wake times. If you're inconsistent and have a really different schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, Tuesday, Thursday, that makes your circadian rhythm flat, which makes it really hard to know when your body needs sleep. And I'll show you some scary data about that soon. Zeitgebers, that's cues in our environment that tell us when it's time to go to bed. So when you start like winding down your room before you sleep, like turning out the lights, making it calm and quiet, turning off the electronics, how long do you give?
10 minutes.
What unit was that?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
Half an hour.
Half an hour? So in our house, we kind of wind down the lights at sunset. And then partially it's because we have little kids that we're trying to get to sleep. But like, you have to turn off the electronics and do a digital detox and make the lights lower. Give yourself time to transition into sleep. You can't go from like work to sleep. It's really hard to do that and it gives you insomnia. Also, Zeitgebers, cues in your environment about when you should be doing what. That's so important to like turn off the electronics, turn down like your phone. Say, is the library open 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay, say like, I'm not gonna use your 24-hour library, right? Just because it's open doesn't mean I have to go see you, right? Psychoactive substances, so a lot of the drugs that we take, and then I'm including prescription and over-the-counter and recreational, they kind of screw up our sleep. So I do enjoy drinking, but I try to do it around 5 p.m., so it's completely out of my system by the time I go to bed. Otherwise, my sleep is messed up. So let's talk about a circadian rhythm. It comes from this tiny little part in the brain. This is an animal's sleep-wake cycle, so they're active, sleep, active, sleep. This is 2 days. If you take out that part of the brain, they're like, whoa, nap, up, nap. It's completely destroyed their rhythm. What I've actually seen in students is often a rhythm that looks kind of like this, where you're napping or you're like awake and then you're asleep and you're nodding off. what we want to do is have a stronger circadian rhythm by having a regular schedule. So, how much sleep do you need? Do you know how much sleep your body actually needs? How much? Is that true to your body?
7.5.
7.5. I'm 7.5. How would you know how much sleep you need? Okay, so the idea is you go to bed, you sleep till you're done sleeping, and you wake up when you're refreshed. How long is that time period? 8.5. Okay, so average in your age group is around 9.25 hours for how long that time period is. I'm guessing most of you aren't getting kind of to that point. For some of you, it might say, oh, I would sleep for 11 or 12 hours in a row. That's probably your accumulated sleep debt. But if you gave yourself enough chance to sleep for a couple days in a row, it would probably not be 11 for like a week. You think? Yeah. Okay. So one of the things we try to do is get people to say, you know what, I need 7, I need 8, I need 9, and just own it and take all that sleep. And when you do that, you have enormous transformations in health. But we're living in a society that says go, 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 go all the time. Where do you go if you're hungry at 3? What? Diner?
I said the diner, yes.
It's open?
3 a.m.
Wait, the diner? There's an on-campus food place?
No, that was at home.
Okay. Alright. Okay, a restaurant called the Diner. Alright, where do you go if you're hungry at 3 here? Nowhere? Do you order anything? So as a society, we're getting 20% sleep, less sleep than we did just 100 years ago. It was normal to spend 10 hours in bed every night 100 years ago. And that's just decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And that decrease is directly proportional to increases in health problems, both physical and mental health problems. Talk more about that. So, what are some challenges to college sleep? What makes it hard to sleep at BC?
There's so much homework.
Homework? What else? What? Roommates? Yep. Yep.
Clinical rotation.
Yep. Yep. What else?
Neighbors.
Neighbors? So if I did like a statistical study to see what's correlated with bad sleep in college students, what do you think? I've got about 15 things up here. What else?
Parties.
Parties? Yeah. Oh, yeah, too hot, too loud, too noisy, too bright. What about internal stuff?
Stress.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what we see is that there's a lot. One, there's not a lot of signals telling you to go to bed, and that does actually seem to make a difference. So if you have more like parents nagging you, like, go to bed, that actually does help you go to bed earlier. Technology in the bedroom, delayed phase, that's where your body's circadian rhythm is shifted later, so you don't want to necessarily wake up. So what's your ideal bedtime? I'm 10. 11 to 30. Is anybody like 1 or 2? Night people? Let's in your genes, just gotta own it, that's you. Caffeine in the PM, alcohol, prescription medications, academic pressure to get up early, social pressure, FOMO, irregular schedules, time management, stress and depression are like statistically the number 1 and 2 threats to sleep in college students. I like to see what kind of people say about sleep. Where is the sleep? Hashtag college. 2.5 hours. College standard. First night in sleep. All right. Just want to sleep. I don't want to do college anymore. And that is a sentiment that I see a lot, actually, where you're just so exhausted, your desire to do stuff is muted. Right? So if your brain is running on, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, it's not ideal to be like, let's think of a creative thesis project and plan a great party for my friends, right? It's like, just flatten. So, sleep is actually at the base of our hierarchy of needs. Sleep is something like food, water, and air that you need to live and that you will die without. Any questions about that? How long do you think it would take? A couple of days sometimes. A couple of days sometimes in the wiring between your brain and heart, or your brain can get a little faulty. Or at least a couple weeks through the messier way. So what happens when you're not getting enough sleep? One, you have a decreased cognitive performance. Your brain just doesn't function as well. In fact, if you're up for 20 hours, or if you're only sleeping 6 hours a night, you're performing at the same level as if you've had 2 beers in quick succession, really quickly. Slowed reaction time, increased risk-taking behavior, weight gain, blood pressure, insulin resistance, I'll show you a little bit more about that. Decreased immunity, so you make half as many antibodies when you're sleepy as when you're well rested. So that's kind of one of the reasons why students get strep throat all the time, students get sinus infections all the time, but usually the faculty who don't really get that as much. So the people who are chronically poorly rested are much more likely to get infectious illnesses. Also have increased depression, anxiety, interpersonal problems, drug use to try to medicate the sleepiness. All right, so what are some other consequences of sleep loss? And for some of you who might be interested in economics or business, this has an enormous impact on lost work time. In fact, the top 15 causes of lost work time in the United States, many of them are sleep related. So you can either have absenteeism where you just don't show up, or presenteeism where you're like here, but you're totally out. Either you're asleep, or you're just like, I'm here, but I'm not mentally here. And one of the ways they tracked that is they looked at Google search terms on the day after daylight savings time, which you just had a couple weeks ago. More search terms for like stupid kittens and stuff like that than work stuff at any other day of the year. Also more heart attacks that day. So sleep disorders, depression, fatigue, anxiety, so many of these are related to sleep loss. It's a major economic problem equivalent to the GDP of Australia. Sleep's impact on the lack of productivity in the United States is equivalent to the entire economic engine of Australia. All right, what about athletic performance? Does anybody play sports here? Okay, cool stuff on athletic performance. When you are not sleeping well, your performance suffers as an athlete quite a bit. So what I've been doing is actually working with the NCAA to think about how we can get sleep as more of a central part of a conversation about athletic performance. You put so much effort into mental prep and nutrition and conditioning, but what about sleep, right? So when is the earliest workout time for athletes? Yeah.
6.
6? Okay, so a lot of what we're trying to do with NCAA is say like, yeah, it's probably not so good. You're not getting your maximum gains. Your swim times aren't as fast for morning swim as evening swims. And you're much more likely to hurt yourself in the process. So you're getting more athletic gains from extended sleep than you would from an early lift session. So we're trying to get that message out to trainers and coaches that way. Professional athletes take sleep seriously. This is most of the professional athletes are up here on the 8 to 10 hour base sleep. LeBron James is a 12-hour sleeper. A lot of the Olympic athletes in the Winter Olympics were 10, 11, 12-hour sleepers. So it's pretty impressive. Poor Tiger Woods, who has some issues. But it's not on here. What we've done is we analyzed the NCAA database for injury rates. And we found, first of all, athletes get injured a lot more than non-athletes. So this is major sprains, strains, tears, breaks in the last year. 10% chance basically for non-athletes, a 25% chance for athletes. But in both groups, if you're somebody who really struggles with sleep, you're twice as likely to get a major strain. So there's a lot of Division I teams that are interested in these statistics. I'll just say that. So sleep and learning, right? I told you studying can happen during the day, but the brain changes that support learning happen during the night. This is some work we did, just looking at what's the likelihood of taking withdrawal from a class. And we found by the number of days you had sleep disturbances. So if you were tired during the day, you fell asleep in class, you had trouble falling asleep, when you woke up you didn't mean to. So that's like almost every day of the week. You're 7 times more likely to take a withdrawal in the last year. So this has a pretty big impact. It has a pretty big impact on grades too. Don't worry about this like half analysis. Main thing is sleep problems have a bigger impact than psychiatric disorders, stress, and infectious diseases on your academic performance. And the impact is each day with worse sleep raises your chance of withdrawing from a class 10%, lowers the cumulative GPA by 0.02. So a person controlling for all other things who's sleeping well has a 0.14 higher GPA than the person who's chronically sleeping. All right, sleep and mental health, something very close to my heart. Not sure if you're aware, but there's been a big rise in mental health problems on college campuses. So mental health centers can't even keep up with the number of people seeking support for anxiety, depression, ADHD, interpersonal problems, etc. I am pretty convinced that a lot of this is driven by an epidemic of poor sleep because sleep and mental health are tightly coupled. A person with inadequate sleep is 9 times more likely to screen positive for depression. So if you take like the PHQ-9 questionnaire and just like, how are you feeling about things? Are you feeling hopeless? Are you lack of energy? Are you tired? That's basically a consequence of sleep deprivation. Another thing is you're 17 times more likely to screen positive on an anxiety screener if you're having poor sleep. So poor sleep gives you feelings of depression and anxiety, and it's hard for clinicians to tell, like, do you have endogenous depression that's like related to neurohormones, or is this just a consequence of you not getting the 8 to 10 hours of sleep your body needs? Sleep disruptions come before depression. So in 50% of depression episodes, before you get changes in mood, you have changes in your REM sleep, including changes that are similar to what happens to REM sleep when you have alcohol. 75% of mania episodes, so in bipolar, is preceded by bad sleep, and 90% of suicide attempts happen after a period of really bad sleep. So here we're thinking of sleep as a major health sign, a vital sign, just like sleep, or just like blood pressure and heart rate and respiration, we've got sleep. All right, so I would love for you guys to stand up and stretch right now because I've already seen 4 people fall asleep. So go ahead, stand up, take our pressure. Halfway through, high five your neighbor. Likely to have anxiety and depression syndrome. Part of that is because sleep loss is interpreted as an emergency situation. Your body can go without sleep. We would never survive as a species if we would had to get 8 hours every day. So we can go without sleep, but the body's like, uh-oh, it must be because there's a tiger roaming your village and you gotta fight that tiger, so I'm gonna make you extra stressed so you can fight the tiger and survive. That's what your body thinks sleep deprivation is all about, a threat to your person, so you compensate by activating your sympathetic nervous system. So when you're sleep deprived, your resting heart rate is higher. That makes your athletic performance go down, by the way, because you have decreased cardiovascular capacity. You are even making your pupils dilate more to a stressful stimulus. You are converting in your liver, you're making glycogen into glucose, so you're giving yourself sugar highs all the time when you're not getting enough sleep, which is why bad sleep is as predictive of diabetes as obesity is. All right, so a lot of people don't know about that, but you can decrease your likelihood of getting diabetes just by getting better sleep without changing anything else about diet or nutrition. All right, so all of this, when you're sleep deprived, your body thinks it's a threat, so it makes you more physically on edge. There is an ideal amount of stress, okay? So too little stress, and we're just like, senior slide, don't care, whatever. If you have a good amount of stress, and I saw that earlier you guys had the making stress your friend, that actually helps you get stuff done. It motivates you. It pumps you up for something, helps you study. However, this is like a curve and you shift and then you get to the exhaustion stage. And if you get past exhaustion, you get into panic attack, anxiety disorder, or just break down and all you can do is watch Netflix with the covers over your head and you don't do stuff. You just can't. Alright? So think about how you go from like, yeah, I'm feeling pumped up to like, to I'm done. I'm out of F's. I'm just done, right? What happens when you have too little sleep is that yellow zone decreases. You're minimizing your green zone, and this orange and red zone are much bigger. So sleep deprivation really limits your resilience to stressors. I say when I'm working with faculty that whenever I have a student crying in my office, and I'm not especially mean, but I do have students crying in my office, I always ask, how much sleep did you get last night? Never has a crying student had more than 6 hours the night before, ever. So I usually say like, okay, have a tissue, but go to sleep, come back tomorrow, and we'll problem solve. And usually people are like, oh, maybe this wasn't such a big deal after all. I think I figured it out, right? So sleep is something that can give you power and resilience. And so I don't like people to think of sleeping as a waste of time. Sleep is a time to make your brain grow. Sleep is a time to reset your emotional processing. Sleep is a time for yourself really to thrive. So this was a really cool study. How many of you are bio-y types or chemistry types? Physiology, all right, so this is pretty cool. Burnout is a symptom of physical and emotional exhaustion. You're just like, you're out of energy, you have decreased empathy, you have cynicism and detachment, you have feelings of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. So professional burnout syndrome is really high in people that have high stress jobs with little control. So often in caretakers, in nursing, in psychology, in firefighters, you have high rates of burnout. This is a really cool study. Sorry, there's a lot of data, but I was just so excited. I just saw this today and put this in. Sleep and biological parameters in professional burnout, psychophysiological study. So this is showing you people burnt out in red and controls who have the exact same job in blue who just aren't burnt out. Two differences between them. Number one, it's not shown here, the people who are burnt out getting much less sleep. So when you're not getting good sleep, you are susceptible to burnout disorder. So they're sleeping about an hour less a day, and they're having more awakenings during the night. What this is showing over here, the HbA1c, does anybody know what that is? Nursing, what is it?
It's like it's how much sugar.
Yeah.
So the spike in your sugar. In your
Yeah,
hemoglobin.
so it's not like a fasting glucose test where they're looking for the exact amount of sugar. It's over the last couple months, how much sugar has your blood been struggling to carry, basically. And if you're getting over like 4, that's diabetes, or prediabetes and diabetes. So what they found is that the people that were burnt out, and these were healthy people with like mean BMI of 25, no difference in BMI, no difference in weight, no difference in diet. The difference was they weren't sleeping well. That was causing them to get stressed all the time, causing them their blood sugar to spike because they're getting stressed. And that blood sugar spike was turning them into pre-diabetic people or diabetic people. So that is just mesmerizing to me, that this association of bad sleep makes you psychologically just feel like you're ineffective and less empathy, and that shows up in a basic blood test. So that's cool. It's like literally toxic to be sleep deprived. All right, so what I want to show you now is comparing people who exercise all the time with people who get really good sleep all the time. So I'm a person that really prioritizes sleep. It's got to be an awfully good reason for me not to get good sleep. The last time, well, yesterday because I had an early flight, but before that was in August for my birthday, and I had a charity poker tournament and I stayed up till 2, and I'll own that. But that is like a very rare occasion. Usually I will stay up until I get tired, and I will sleep until I'm done sleeping, and I feel pretty good about life. This is comparing how much overwhelming anxiety people have if they're never exercising or if they're exercising 7 days a week. So you actually get a modest decrease in overwhelming anxiety going from never working out to like 3 days a week. And that's the same for strength training and cardiovascular. But look at this. Every single day with enough sleep to feel rested, you have lowered risk of overwhelming anxiety. What about hopelessness? What do you think that's going to look like? Do you think exercise is a buffer against hopelessness? Like a little bit, same thing. If you go from 0 days to a couple days, you get a modest benefit. But every single day with more sleep, enough sleep to feel rested, you have decreased chance of seeing the world as a hopeless place to live in. So sleep really is this well of resilience and positive energy you can tap into. All right, so I told you about Elvis. Let's get back to Elvis. Poor Elvis. So the first picture was young Elvis. This is old Elvis. He didn't make it very long in his life, but he had bad circadian rhythms, bad Zygivers, bad psychoactive substances, and huge, huge sleep need. So one of the things, his circadian rhythm, he talked about living on Elvis time. So he had this group, okay. So Elvis liked to play late night concerts, so concerts that started at midnight or 1 or 2. And he had this group called the Memphis Mafia that would make whatever he wanted come true, whatever time of day. So he's like, I want to go to an amusement park at 3 a.m. His Memphis Mafia would call and make that happen. Call the employees to get them up. If he wanted to go shopping for furs at 4 a.m., they would make that happen. If he wanted fried chicken at 6 a.m., somebody would make that happen. So whatever he did, he had like no Zeitgeibers telling him the opposite. So he was living on his own time schedule, not in sync with the rest of the world, which is ironic because he was on Sun Records. Yeah. So this is basically your circadian rhythm. Everybody should have a circadian rhythm to their basic body clock. Mine tells me that before I wake up at 6, around 5 o'clock, my brain starts changing my body. It raises my body temperature, increases my cortisol, increases my dopamine, increases my norepinephrine. So it's like does the natural boost for me. So when I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's do this. This is a student athlete. She goes to bed. This is 10 p.m. Actually, this is 9 p.m. So 9 to 10. She's in bed almost every night between 9 and 10, even on the weekends. She plays hockey. She's also in ROTC, so she wakes up by 6 a.m. Almost every single night. She's up between 5 and 6 a.m., even on the weekends. There's 1 day, 3 days off. She was here traveling with her sports team, but she has the best sleep I've ever seen. Her body temperature, each line is a different day, rises in the morning before she wakes up, so this is 4. Her body temperature starts rising. She wakes up around 6, goes throughout her day, and it starts to fall around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock to help her get to sleep. So this is what a good circadian rhythm looks like. This is what a bad sleep schedule looks like. And it might look more familiar, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is different from Tuesday, Thursday, and you got big long naps in the middle. Do you want to see what this person's circadian rhythm looks like? And so when I look at this, I'm like, your body is a hot mess. Like, your body doesn't know what time it is. Your body is so confused. This makes everything make sense to me, because if I have students being like, I don't know if I'm hungry or not. I don't know how I feel. I don't know when I feel best. I don't know what's going on. This makes me understand why you have that so much disconnect with body rhythms. 5 to 10% of every single gene that's made and transcribed by your DNA is under a circadian cycle. So if this is your circadian cycle, you're gonna have good gene transcription, and long story short, that sets you up for more endocrine dysregulation and higher rates of cancer and early death. Not to put a bad spin on it. All right, so Zeitgeist. Oh yeah, so Elvis loved his dark glasses. And this was his bedroom, like no natural light there, and that was his mafia. That was just like, would do anything for him, including keeping him supplied on drugs. All right, so we got way too much light exposure at night, so that's why I like students to sleep like in the super dark with shades, hey? Nice eye shades. Because there's just so much light pollution, our brain doesn't know when it's nighttime anymore. Cool study. How many of you enjoy camping? Camping fixes insomnia. So this is a study where they took people that had insomnia and they said, go out into the woods. Leave your phones behind. you're gonna get, this is how much light they're exposed to under their normal life, where they have not very much light, this is on a log scale, and a lot of light in the evening, and suddenly they're on like synced with the sky. High light, no light. And their melatonin, when they're in natural light, shifted, and their insomnia was fixed. So by living, I call it paleo sleep. If you do paleo sleep, you actually have much better quality sleep. All right, drugs. Okay. So my stimulant sedative loop of choice is coffee and wine. I was very embarrassed when I was playing restaurant with my daughter, and she was 3, and she's like, "What do you want to drink, Mommy? Do you want coffee or wine?" I was like, "You already know my 2 vices." All right. So basically the idea is if you drink alcohol at night, it makes it harder to have good sleep. So you feel groggy in the morning, so you reach for a stimulant, which makes it harder to sleep, so you reach for a sedative. Now this cycle has been seen over and over again, and this is where a lot of musicians struggle. Johnny Cash was more of like barbiturate amphetamine. That was his stimulant sedation. So, oh boy, Elvis loved his stimulants. In the army, he got addicted to Benzedrine tablets. And this, I mean, do you guys know in World War II they basically handed out amphetamines and meth? German soldiers were basically on meth every single day. They ran out of meth, and that really screwed up their invasion of Russia. Don't have drug history classes? They're so fun. Okay. Sedatives. He had what was called a knockout packet that when he was ready to go to sleep, he had his handlers give him a crushed packet of 10 drugs, which included a lot of anxiety and pain medications and downers all together. So that actually wasn't good sleep. And this whole thing, again, blocked him from having this stage of sleep. It's problematic. All right. I want to be respectful of your time, so I want to just say one more thing and then I'll open it up for questions. Sleep need. How much sleep do we need and why do we need sleep? Elvis actually got a pretty bad brain injury when he was on the set of Clambake. He was drunk and tripped over a telephone and hit his head on a bathtub and was out bleeding from the head for about 2 hours. And anyway, that internal brain injury caused blood to seep into his brain, caused an autoimmune cascade that gave him arthritis and some other autoimmune things. And so he had a lot of brain injury going on the last 10 years of his life that led to headaches and migraines and sleep problems. One of the things we need sleep for is to fix the brain of problems. So if our brain is having a problem, skipping, why do we need sleep? Sleep actually rids the brain of metabolic waste. When we are sleeping, and this was only discovered in 2013, cerebral spinal fluid channels in our brain open up an extra 40%, brain cells shrink, and it literally removes metabolic waste from your brain, and then it's kind of flushed through the lymphatic system and processed through the kidneys. So sleep is like the kidneys of the brain. If you're not getting enough sleep, and this happens during slow wave sleep, your brain is filling up with brain cell poop. And I mean that literally. Like everything that eats excretes. Brain cells take 20% of our glucose, 20% of our calories is for the brain. That's a lot of extracellular waste that needs to be processed. And if you're not sleeping well enough, your brain is filling up with brain cell poop, which explains why people, when they're not sleeping well, act like they're drunk, perform like they're drunk, are not acting at their best because their brain is filled up with brain cell poop. And this brain cell poop, including beta amyloid and tau, are the proteins that build up and cause Alzheimer's disease and dementia and CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which Elvis probably had too, which is just repeated brain damage. So sleep is not just like a fun, restorative, cute self-care thing. Sleep is like how your brain keeps itself alive and processing. So it's not something that you want to skimp on. All right, oh, poor Elvis. Yeah, so how did we go from like good Elvis to almost dead Elvis? And this is like the week I was born. It was his last recording. And you can listen to it later if you want, but he doesn't even know how to use words in this recording. It's so bad. And that brain injury was a central part of that. All right, so how to get good sleep. This is that. 3 things to think about. Quantity. How much sleep do you need? How much sleep do you need?
9 to 12.
9.25. On average, some of you might be 7, some of you might be 10. You don't know until you give yourself enough time to sleep and see how much that is and see how you feel rested. Consistency, having the same schedule weekend, weekday, really helps you with your sleep. Because you remember that temperature graph? You want to have your body knowing what time of day it is so it knows what genes to produce, so it knows how to help you operate on your best. So you should have like a best time you study and study during your best time. A best time you can hang out with your friends and watch Netflix and do that later, not during the study time. Quality, making sure you don't have a sleep disorder. Like, okay, if your roommate makes that sound, that's a real issue. That means that you don't have good airway opening during sleep, and you can get like a retainer to fix that, or a CPAP or something. Or if you have like legs that don't shut off during sleep, anybody have the restless legs? Yep, sometimes it happens with low iron. You can just have restless legs disorder, and that stops you from sleeping. But again, that's something that a couple supplements could fix. All right, quality, how else to make good quality sleep? Limit caffeine in the evening, have a wind down, relaxing activity before bed, limiting your bright light exposure. All right, so I want to save the last 5 minutes for questions. Yes?
Do you know anything about talking in your sleep?
Yep, parasomnias. Those are behaviors that occur during your sleep that aren't supposed to. Sleepwalking, sleep time, talking, grinding your teeth, sleep eating. It happens more when you're not getting enough sleep, or if you're stressed, or if you have too much caffeine. It's part of your brain waking up without the rest of it. It's within the realm of normal. But if it happens a lot, you want to experiment with how to maybe eliminate caffeine or get more sleep. Yes? Yes, Patrick. Yeah.
I often find that if I need sleep and I sleep in too much, it harms the rest of my day. Can you speak to oversleeping?
Okay, so oversleeping could be a couple things. It could be waking up at a different circadian rhythm. Sometimes, and I'm not picking on you saying this, but when students are like, oh, I slept 11 hours and I feel crappy, I'm like, what'd you do before that 11 hours? Sometimes it's alcohol, and so it's like you're not getting the same amount of sleep. Part of it is just not having that consistent schedule. Or when you oversleep, your brain just kind of goes back into deep sleep, so you wake up in deep sleep, and that doesn't feel good either. So ideally, you'd want to just, if you wake up before your alarm or you need to, it's better just to get up and do your day and give yourself like a 20-minute nap. An ideal nap, 20 to 30 minutes, halfway through the afternoon. That's it. That's a good nap. If you do a long nap, that puts you into deep sleep, which messes up your nighttime sleep. Yeah? Yep.
So I read one time that SSRIs affect your REM cycle.
Yes.
And I was wondering, because a lot of college students are on them, like what do you recommend for like combating that?
Okay, so endogenous depression. So if you have depression that's not situational depression, that's not stress, that's not temporary like a breakup, but your body and your brain has had kind of a lifetime of depression, you probably have too much REM sleep, and REM sleep occurring where it's not supposed to. Every single SSRI suppresses REM sleep. But if you have too much, that's good. But if you're a person that kind of went on antidepressants, maybe you were on a high stress period or breakup or something that's more situational, the SSRIs can make your sleep worse. Having said that, please nobody stop taking your SSRIs because that would put you into withdrawal syndrome and hurt. But it's something that might be useful talking with your care provider and just bringing up and just talking about dosing and care and whether it's still like something that's needed, or is there cognitive behavioral stuff, or can you experiment with going down kind of thing. But yeah, all SSRIs suppress your REM sleep. If you have endogenous depression, that's probably a good thing. If you don't, that's probably a bad thing. That was a complicated answer. Yes?
What advice would you give for like nurses or people who work night shifts?
Coffee nap. A coffee nap is when you know that you have to be up for a long time, so you're going to take what's called a prophylactic nap, which is a nap before you have to be awake. And I would say take coffee, like 200 milligrams or so, which is a big cup. Take a nap, and by the time the coffee kicks in, which is about 45 minutes, your nap should be waking you up, so you have the double refresher effect. And then make sure you have a safe place to nap afterwards, after your shift is over. But it's hard. It's really hard to do shift work. Try not to do it for a lifetime. Yeah.
What do you think of melatonin supplements?
Melatonin is a prescription drug in most countries. So in most countries you need a prescription for melatonin, and it is a hormone. So I feel weird. Nobody's like, here, have some thyroxine, have some insulin, have some testosterone. It's a hormone, yet we like take it. But having said that, most of us are melatonin deprived because light at night suppresses melatonin. So if you're looking at your screens, you're probably suppressing your melatonin. And we saw in the camping study that people in camping, their melatonin levels went way up. So I would prefer that you increase your melatonin naturally by making your room and your screens darker. Melatonin can be good if you're naturally a late person and you want to try shifting to it earlier. So it's not a sleeping pill, but it's like telling your body what time of day it is pill. That I would, again, talk to a care provider because it is a hormone that's prescription in most countries.
What tips do you have for actually getting on like a consistent sleep schedule?
I like setting a bedtime and building your schedule around that and just really paying attention to when your body wants to go to sleep and then getting up early in the morning on the weekend. Or not early, whatever, getting up the same time on the weekends and the weekdays. You can get a lot done Saturday, Sunday in the morning at the library. Nobody's using it. But it's so efficient. Best table. Yeah.
So a lot of devices have like features where they can change the light coming out of it from
Yep.
blue to like warm light. Does that
Yep.
actually help, or is it
Absolutely, right, and this is, I get very geeked out about this, because this is what I did my dissertation on. We have areas in the eyes that detect blue light, even at spectrums that we can't see. And blue lights happen to be what our screens are giving us. So if we suppress the blue light with a filter, that helps us sleep better. So yeah, use those night shift, use the flux. I love flux, that's my favorite one. I have that on my screens, and that will stop the blue light from happening. So yeah, use it, it's good. It's not as good as turning off the thing, but it's next best thing. All right, so I know it's late and hot and stuffy, so
Yeah, so I just wanted to.
yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to?
Yeah, perfect. So I just want to remind everyone that it's today's presentation, Jazz Do, that we're going to have a discussion group on Monday at 12 o'clock with free Chipotle. So there's a sign-up sheet over there if you are interested in coming. And it's in Gaston 012, so we hope that you will join us. You get a free t-shirt, Chipotle, and a free book. So definitely come then, and feel free to participate in the online challenge that's in your email as well. And there are sleep masks and earplugs up on the front table. Thank you so much. Yes.
Hi guys, so I'm part of the iSleep team, and so like this month we're doing like everything related to sleep. So Sunday at 10:30, the Plex in the NPR room, we're gonna have like a guided meditation, just as like something to help people practice. So yeah, come through. We'll have like a lot of free things. It should be like an hour long.